It's time to get educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. I'm Katie Petrick, and as you can see, I am riding solo today. As always, please do hit that share button so we can educate more patriots around the country just like you. All right, today we've got a Healthy Republic coming up with moi. But first, let's kick things off with everyone's favorite education guru, the one, the only, Alex Newman.
Hey, I've been warning for a very long time that we need to be very careful with this whole school choice thing, with this whole tax money for private schools and for homeschoolers. And of course, I'm not the only one. Many people have been warning about this. In fact, one of the reasons why the Freedom Project Academy doesn't take government money is because we knew that this would eventually come. It's also the reason why the biggest homeschool association in the world, the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, which represents, I think, almost 700,000 families, has always fought very hard to make sure that governments don't start handing out tax money to homeschoolers. Well, now these warnings have been given, I think, some added urgency because we have a new report. It's actually not very new. It came out a few months ago, but nobody really noticed it. But it's a report commissioned by UNESCO. That's the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, where they actually outline the process of using government money to bring private schools under government control and impose all these regulations under the guise of equity and other things. They talk about imposing standards, imposing testing requirements, imposing admissions requirements, and things like that. And so it really, I think, adds a new dimension to this threat of the school choice thing. Now, I'll start off by saying that we completely understand why people would support this idea. The public schools are, of course, a disaster. Everybody knows it. Nobody wants their kids in there. And it's certainly unfair that we as taxpayers have to pay huge amounts of property taxes and whatever other taxes go to support this failed, bloated government indoctrination system. And then that we have to pay again to educate our own children, whether that be through homeschooling or through a private Christian school. I understand, okay? I get it. As a homeschool dad with 5 kids, it kills me to pay more money in taxes to brainwash other people's children than I pay to give my own children a wonderful world-class education that has them head and shoulders above their peers of similar ages who are stuck in the government's brainwash camp. So I get it. I understand. But what first turned me on to this danger was in Sweden. My wife's from there. We had been living there. And I actually saw this process play out. So the government said, we're going to have school choice. We're going to have a backpack. We're going to put the money in. And then the money's going to follow the child. And we're going to do subsidies for private schools. And so wherever parents want to send their children, the government will pay. And that was nice. Until they closed the trap, and then they said, all right, this was in, I think, 2011, they passed a new education bill. They said, now all the private schools that take government money must teach the government curriculum. And, of course, that completely eliminated genuine school choice. They actually said you couldn't have Bible, you couldn't have prayer, none of that if you were taking government money. And all the schools had to teach the government curriculum, which, of course, was totally, absolutely bonkers, very much like it is in the United States. So now UNESCO wants to do this around the world. This report was commissioned by UNESCO for the Global Education Monitoring Report. And they talk about, and I'm quoting here from the report, the alleged need to establish appropriate governance and regulatory frameworks for private schools. That way they can achieve these goals like equity. So the report is called Regulating Public-Private Partnerships Governing Non-State Schools, an Equity Perspective. And actually it was Lisa Logan, she did a Substack that turned me on to this report, and I read it on the airplane. And folks, this is incredibly alarming. Okay, here's some more quotes from the report. Regulatory reforms must clearly define what public interest in education is and fix the rules under which private providers may participate. And they also start, folks, just for your information, they start with this crazy premise that government is responsible for education, not parents. They point to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, subject for another day. They call it the Master Plan for Humanity. And they say that the state remains the duty bearer of public education as a public good. And they say that any collaboration with the private sector on this and I'm quoting here, requires regulatory and accountability measures to ensure it is in line with the principle of education as a public good. Now, I taught economics for almost 12 years at the Freedom Project Academy, and I taught the students what a public good is. A public good is something that's non-rival and non-excludable, like a lighthouse. Right, you can't exclude people from using the light from the lighthouse if they don't pay, and it's non-rival. Right, you could have one ship or 100 ships using the light from the lighthouse. It's not something like a hamburger that once you consume it, nobody else can consume it. Right, obviously, education is not a public good under the legitimate definition that economists use, and yet the UN is acting like it is. Of course, it's not. And so, folks, as you read this, realize they think public education is a right of all children. Parents really have no role. In fact, they describe parents in this document as stakeholders and vested interest to be overcome. Okay, I'm not kidding. You can read the thing yourself. And so it is very, very dangerous, folks. They go on to say that they call them public-private partnerships. Basically, just think Nazism, fascism, right? Where you can have a private company, it just has to do what the government says. But they say these PPPs, public-private partnerships, are going to be the mechanism, and they say they are not exempt from complying with centrally defined curricula, learning standards, or student admissions criteria, among other public regulations. They say that the government needs to impose testing requirements that will, I'm quoting here, play a strategic role in promoting that all publicly funded schools, independently of their ownership, are correctly aligned with quality standards and also with the equity goals and objectives set by the governments. Folks, it's like the cheese in the mousetrap, right? The mouse eats the cheese because the mouse doesn't understand why the cheese is free, and then bam, the mouse is dead. Folks, this will destroy school choice. Be aware.
With all the censorship taking place on social media platforms, we've made it easy to keep up with your favorite content. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app in your app store. Get access to 18 new videos a week, plus thousands of archived shows, lecture series, and educational animations. Download the Freedom Project Media app on your Apple TV, Roku, tablet, or phone, and make sure you allow for notifications to keep you informed.
Mask on, mask off. Mask on, mask off. This is the mantra that Joe Biden has been repeating for the past 5 days and really 2 years as the thing finally came for him. Joe got that which must not be named.
Hey folks, guess you heard this morning I tested positive for COVID. But I've been double vaccinated, double boosted, symptoms are mild, and I really appreciate your inquiries and your concerns. But I'm doing well. I'm getting a lot of work done. I'm going to continue to get it done. And in the meantime, thanks for your concern and keep the faith. It's going to be okay.
4 to 6 days later.
As I was walking out, I thought I heard a rumbling in my staff saying, "Oh, he's back." Thanks for sticking around.
No, that was all of America saying that.
Hello, everyone.
Say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello,
Just
everybody.
in the living room. I should say it.
You should say it.
Hello, everybody.
I've just tested negative for COVID-19 after isolating for 5 days. Thankfully, I'll now be able to return to work in person.
Just so you know, that's all the media that was hooping and hollering right there. So good old Joe will be okay, but the rest of us won't be. Because even CNN has to admit just how bad the economy is at this moment in time.
Chris Cillizza, inflation affects every American directly. The Biden administration is trying to point out the definition of a recession is nuanced. But I got to tell you, I struggle with this. I get that why they want to do it from a political perspective, but like you can't fake this.
No, I was laughing to myself with the "in my view" thing that Caitlin highlighted, because it's like, well, in my view, I should be drafted into the NBA. Like the NBA executives didn't agree with that.
Millions of dollars,
right? Like it doesn't really matter what you think. There is a technical definition, 2 straight quarters of negative economic growth. They clearly believe that is likely to come to pass later this week. They're trying to pre-bud it. To your point, we get why they're doing it politically.
Right.
At the same time, we have these terms for reasons. You don't have to like it. Of course they don't like it because the economy, Joe
Basically a textbook.
Joe
right?
Biden's handling of the economy was at 25 or 30% in our most recent poll. Yeah, it's a problem for them. This adds to the problem. But you don't get to change the nomenclature in the middle of a campaign because it doesn't work for you.
They don't like the definition of many words, and so they just changed them, as we all know. The commentator there, Chris Cillizza, was responding to what Biden had said earlier in the day while trying to sound like Barry White.
How worried should Americans be that we could be in a recession?
We're not going to be in a recession, in my view. The employment rate is still one of the lowest we've had in history. It's in the 3.6 area. We still find ourselves with people investing. My hope is we go from this rapid growth to steady growth. And so we'll see some coming down. But I don't think we're going to, God willing, I don't think we're going to see a recession.
Oh my. His voice is almost as low as his approval rating. And how low is that? Again, even CNN, which only exists because airports still exist, can't prop this guy up anymore.
How's he doing on a series of issues? 46% approval on the situation in Ukraine, 39% approval on immigration. But take a look at these numbers here. On the economy, he's at 30% approval, below his overall approval. And on inflation, only 25% of respondents approve of how the president is tackling what is the most pressing issue by far, people say, in terms of how the economy is impacting their family.
How is Biden doing compared to his predecessors?
One way we look at that, Jake, we ask folks, do you believe Joe Biden has the right priorities? Okay, so right now, only 31% say yes, President Biden has the right priorities. 68% say no. This is up 10 points since we scored this last year in the Biden presidency. So now let's take a look at how that 31% who say yes, he has the right priorities stacks up against his modern era predecessors. Look at that. Not very well. 31% for Biden is clearly the low watermark of all Trump, Obama, Bush, and Clinton on this score, Jake.
Again, these numbers are with the media propping up the once alive president. Which brings us to today's question. With Biden getting the thing, what's the next thing that will be used to distract us? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you could share this video, then maybe we won't get the thing. Or maybe we still will because, duh, we'll all get it. Unless we literally live in a bubble.
All right, bubble boy. Let's just play.
Joe Biden was put into a bubble of sorts, and the task of keeping him properly in that bubble fell to the communications team for Joe, who must have a case of the Mondays every single day. And they're in overtime with this whole COVID thing, trying to get him to listen.
Wax on, wax off. Breathe in through nose, out the mouth. Wax on, wax off. Don't forget to breathe. Very important.
You see, they had a little boo-boo when first trying to show that Joe was A-OK. Exhibit A. Biden is in his office, keeping busy, but also not wearing a mask. Are we not supposed to be in isolation when the plague comes for us? Who exactly took that photo of Joe? Because according to the White House, the protocol is above and beyond CDC guidance, and Joe will continue to work in isolation until he tests negative. I mean, holy balls, that must be some strong medicine, that Paxlovid, because the day that Joe announced that he had the thing was the same day that photo was taken and then put up on his Twitter account. And the very next morning, at precisely 8 a.m., the comms team released a new photo of Joe, this time with a mask on, because whoopsie, it didn't look very good that he was positive and he wasn't muzzled. Karine Jean-Pierre, please enlighten us on this.
We're in a different place with COVID, right? We are able to do the business. He's able to do the business of the American people, and not just him, other Americans as well, because there are vaccines that are free, because there are boosters that are free, because there's Paxlovid, which is an antiviral medication that has helped him really take to the treatment well, really recover very well.
Yes. Every day he was getting better and better. Almost immediately, a statement from Dr. Kevin O'Connor, Biden's tending physician, was released to attempt to make it seem like Biden is not Weekend at Bernie's.
Feels good, eh, Bern? You're really Liz. Never seen you this relaxed before. Keep it up, huh? I gotta go. Duty calls.
In the statement, Dr. O'Connor said the symptoms were improving and he's tolerating the treatment well. He had a slight fever, a runny nose, and fatigue with some loose coughing. But let's hear from the horse's mouth. How was Joe doing after the weekend?
I'm feeling great. You know, I've had 2 full nights of sleep all the way through. Matter of fact, my dog had to wake me up this morning. My wife's not here. She usually takes him out in the morning while I'm upstairs working out. So I felt this nuzzle of my dog's nose against my chest about 5 minutes to 7. So, no, but I'm feeling good. My voice is still raspy. I've had every morning, every afternoon, every evening, I get a full-blown series of tests, everything from temperature to oxygen, the oxygen in my blood to my pulse to, just across the board. And so far, everything's good. Everything's on the button. And so I'm feeling better every day. I still have a little bit of a sore throat and a little bit of a cough, but it's changing significantly. It's now up in the upper part of my throat. Actually, it's more around my nose than anywhere else. And, but they tell me that's par for the course. And I think I'm on my way to full total recovery.
What a nice story. It convinces me even more that he is a commander. Of course, I'm talking about the dog because that dog is named Commander. And there he is. Oh, wait a minute. Someone called PETA! How dare Joe endanger that dog? He's not like Major, the dog who bites people. Where is a mask for that dog? You can see he is clearly Joe's second in command. And that brings us to... Where in the world is Kamalama Ding Dong? What has Ding Dong been doing during this time of Joe having the thing?
I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
Profound. Kamala gave the announcement to a roundtable with disability advocates, but she also has a lot to say about women getting pregnant.
Listen, women are getting pregnant every day in America, and this is a real issue, and we need to act with a sense of haste about what is at play, what is at stake, and codifying Roe will be an important moment in terms of putting back in place protections for the folks who are at risk right now because of what the court did in Dobbs just weeks ago.
That protection for those folks, of course, is not for the baby. Just ask Leana Wen, former president of Planned Parenthood, who now spends her time providing all the insight in all the land. One of her most recent opinion pieces for the Washington Reg Post was titled, "Biden's COVID diagnosis is a teaching moment for the country." Oh, is it? Please enlighten us. Wen begins, President Biden's COVID-19 diagnosis is an opportunity for his administration to demonstrate the success of his leadership on the pandemic and what living with the coronavirus looks like. The fact that Biden contracted the coronavirus should not be surprising at all. People around him have been getting infected for months, including Harris, Pelosi, Schumer. Frankly, I'm surprised Biden had held off infection for so long, given the number of public events he has attended and his proclivity for hugging and shaking hands. We've been saying this from the beginning of this entire thing. Everyone's going to get it. And yes, I am angry about it.
Well, what would you do if you're so smart? I'd tell you, but you're too dumb to understand. What? Of course your tiny brain is confused. Guess I'll just have to dumb it down to your level. Sorry I don't speak moron as well as you, but let me try.
Who's the moron now? And really, always has been. But little old common sense over here. Can we please have a doctor chime in on this? Maybe the First Lady, Jill Biden. Sorry, Dr. Jill Biden. She is the best of the best.
The best of the best of the best, sir. With honors. He's just really excited and he has no clue why we're here.
And neither does Joe. The greatest doctor of all the doctors, named Dr. J, who doesn't play basketball, bailed on her husband while he was sick. It's not quite a John and Elizabeth Edwards 2007-2008 situation, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, Joe and Jill go to Delaware almost every weekend, which is perfectly acceptable because he's not on the golf course like some other president was. Instead, he's just falling off his bike, as I've shown several times on this channel. But with Joe getting the vid, he couldn't even serenade her. to get her to stay with him.
Doctor, doctor, give me the news. I've got a bad case of loving you.
Now, I'm not actually sure if Joe sings this song to Jill or his true favorite, Dr. Fauci, or both, but we'll get to talking of monkeypox in a moment. In the meantime, with Jill up in Delaware, Joe had to watch from afar as she heard from her fans.
Your husband's the worst president we've ever had. You owe us gas money. You owe us gas money. You owe us gas money.
You may not have noticed it there with the accurate reporting by the passersby, but Jill was walking into an ice cream shop because, you know.
A rare outing for President Biden on the streets of our nation's capital, chatting with voters, enjoying an ice cream cone. He's been holed up in the White House except for a few trips home to Delaware, and now we know why. His staff has kept him in a COVID-safe bubble. They're reportedly terrified of him catching COVID.
That was January. And now in July, well, he has the COVID and his wife is getting the ice cream. He's stuck at home, the lonely White House. So that must be why he's passing the time tweeting up a storm, and by him I mean his handlers. But I thought so much tweeting was very bad. So very, very, very bad. Like Orange Man bad.
Please, God, take me now.
Joe's just been keeping himself busy, focusing on his priorities: climate change, baby killing, and semiconductors. He tweeted out this regarding the baby killing: through executive order, under no circumstances should a woman be denied emergency medical care because she's pregnant. And a woman's medical history, including her history of abortion care, is protected under HIPAA, regardless of her state's abortion laws. The good Catholic's so proud of his executive order that focuses on how abortions are care. But how dare he assume the gender and pronouns of those who have abortions? You can see what the executive order does not make clear, and we're left wondering, what is a woman? But he's not a biologist, nor is he a doctor. But you know who is? The Director General of the World Health Organization. I mean, he has a PhD, so of course he just overruled an expert panel so that he could make monkeypox a global health emergency. That's all politics right there. Do you want to know the other global health emergencies out there? COVID-19 and polio. That's it. But hey, monkeypox is transmitted via the male penis. And I say male penis because it's the males who have the penises. And the ones transmitting the monkeypox, it's science.
Okay, Mr. Connery.
I'll take Jap anus relations for 200.
In this instance, it is homosexual sex relations that is what you need to know. So if you aren't having homosexual male sex, then carry on with your day and ignore the media going ape over it because they have nothing positive to report. Instead, they are fear-mongering for the whopping 5 deaths that have occurred. And if that sounds callous, know that 5 people were killed in Chicago this past weekend. And hey, that's 2 fewer than the weekend before, so yeah, let's look at our priorities. Like Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot offering up $2.2 billion to get the Chicago Bears to stay in the crime-ridden city. Why would you want them to stay? The city is already losing enough. Also, go Pack Go. I am Katie Petrick, and I am a woman, so my pronouns are obviously she, her. I am sitting behind this desk, wearing a pink blouse. Thank you for being here today. I hope you turn this video off and go celebrate your F's, faith, family, and friends. But before you do, please share this video because this one was a doozy. Until next time, stay healthy, America.